Oh, yes. Welcome back to the morning show, the old fashioned show. I'm Alex Dunlap here today with Cody Carpentier. No Anwar Richardson today. But let me say this just to start. It's going to be like Anwar is going to be here today because we are going to be using his reporting and we are going to be giving you updates from the war room for some stuff that Anwar had. We're going to get to that. Man, gonna have to go back on some things I said yesterday about the offensive line depth chart. Um, right after I put out my my V1 of my projected depth chart for the spring, Anwar comes out with some new reporting that goes ahead and blows that right to smithereens. We will talk about that. We have some reporting from Catch about the edge rushers that we want to talk about. And also, I'm looking forward to maybe starting to dive into you with the discussion for next week about getting up my defensive projections for the spring depth chart. So a bunch to get to today. A lot of depth chart talk, a lot of talk about the personnel. We're your guys to do it. Alex Dunlap, Cody Carpentier. Cody, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good, but it's kind of interesting you just brought that up. Anwar, you do a show with him every day, and he didn't want to tell you that Brandon Baker maybe shouldn't be listed as 2 on your depth chart. Like he couldn't have brought that up in conversation, pre-show, post-show, no text messages. Come on, Anwar, what are we doing?
Anwar's got his sources, man. Anwar's got his he's a journo. He's a journo. He keeps these things to himself. He doesn't want anybody to he don't want anybody to be stealing his scoops, man. He doesn't quite trust me enough yet to keep me from looking like a dope. So that's the big news, right? Coming out of the war room last night, as Anwar talked to one of his sources, Brandon Baker, the true freshman tackle out of Mater Dei in California, who has been somebody that we've reported on that's been really looking awesome, is so far through winter conditioning, is lining up at third team right tackle. So that's different than what I projected. And Cody, you might just tell me what you think about my initial lean was to put him at number 2 left tackle, directly behind Kelvin Banks, the heir apparent to that left tackle spot, the dude who they told you're going to be blocking for Arch Manning on the blind side moving forward in the SEC. It feels to me like that would be the recruiting pitch. It also feels to me like that's probably eventually what's going to happen. But, I mean, do you think that this is something where it's like is this telling in any way, or is this just like, man, we're bringing him in. We have these other guys who've been here for a year. We have Trevor Gooseby. We have Jaden Chapman. We have these dudes who have played in actual games at left tackle. Let's see. Last year, if I just look at let me look at the snaps per disruption allowed, and it'll tell me how many snaps exactly each of these guys played. I should have probably had this pulled up before we started. So we had Jaden Chapman played 22 snaps last year at left tackle. He did not allow any disruption. He didn't commit any penalties. Trevor Gooseby only played 9 snaps last year, but they were also at left tackle. No disruption allowed, no penalties. I think those are probably the 2 guys that are going to be behind Kelvin Banks at this point. But is it going to stay that way? Can you keep a guy like Baker off the football field? I mean, can you keep him off the 2? He can't not be on the 2 deep. I mean, it's just like, it's so ridiculous.
I think you can easily explain this. Is right now, like the Texas Longhorns are not playing for 2025. They're playing for 2024, and putting him right tackle, third team right now as a freshman is the proper angle to take as far as creating flexibility for himself in this offensive line.
What does that mean?
In saying we know Kelvin Banks is the best offensive lineman on the roster, right? You're obviously not gonna game plan for him getting hurt. What you're gonna game plan for is maybe the other side of the offensive line that's new, the one new player, Cam Williams, potentially. We'll see what happens. If something potentially does happen, there's a spot for depth to be behind him, right? Starting him out third team right tackle right now tells me when camp starts, there's going to be a battle there between 2 and 3. And between you and me, I think you and me both think he probably becomes the number 2, right?
Oh, and God, dude, versus Peyton Kirkland and Andre Kojo. Yes.
This is the thing, right? And so feel pretty good about him overtaking, becoming the number 2. And then that becomes, okay, if Cam goes down, if Cam has to miss practice, if whatever happens, bang, Baker's right there, right tackle. Whereas if he just slots in at left tackle now and they just go, we're going to corner you in left tackle, you're playing left tackle in 2025. Okay. Well, then what? Well, then what happens if we need him on the right side? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's more worry about the right side of the offensive line than there is the left side of the offensive line. Does that make sense? Like, I think obviously 2025, they're going to say, all right, man, you're going to come over, you're going to play left for Banks. They're going to be using him on both sides, I would say, in practice.
I mean,
that's the only logical way of going at it. So it just makes more sense. It makes sense from a 2024 perspective to have him working both sides, playing swing, and then when Banks is gone, then it's his spot. That's 100%er.
Look, and I mean, South End Zone Queen, so good to see you in the chat. So good to see everybody in the chat, man. Trevor Sandoval, Zoe. Let's see. We got Blake Jester, Brandon Wyckoff, man. Corleone Burgess. So good to see everybody, man. Thanks to all you guys for being here in the Specs chat line. Keep on hitting us up if you have any questions. It's like an old school Final Takes Friday. You can ask whatever questions you got to the boys, but man. So what South End Zone Queen says is that it's never too early.
Yeah.
Right. Never too early. What was it? Did I put it up? You got to earn it. They're only in winter conditioning right now. I mean, I kind of get it, but also South End Zone Queen. It's like, Kelvin Banks didn't have to earn a thing. He didn't even do spring football. And he walked in and he was left tackle.
The roster was a little bit different though, right? And he's also a little bit. I would say he's a little bit higher of a talent than I would say Baker is. But I mean, there's other things you can point to in college football, like the BYU kid, right? Kingsley Suamatia. He had to play right tackle. He played right tackle in 2022 because Blake Freeland was playing left tackle. Freeland goes to the NFL. Suamatia moves to left.
Was Freeland good this year for the Colts?
I don't think he was above average. I think he might have been right at average or right below. But he was playable.
Yeah.
But that's more so the point. The point is that like Baker, I think it's more so. I'm not saying they're worried about Cam Williams, but it's more like we know having depth at that right side is going to be important, and they're obviously not going to plan for an injury to Banks. If an injury happens to Banks, then there's bigger problems. So I think they just want to make sure they get this thing right, and if they can see Baker and they can see Cam Williams next to each other, who's to say, like you just mentioned, who's to say that by fall camp? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but by fall camp. Maybe Baker's pushing Cam for that one. You know what I'm saying? Like that would make the best offensive line overall if that hypothetically happened. Like that's what they wanted. That's what they're trying to figure out. Who's the best five, right? They know they had 4 from last year, and they want to make sure they get that 5th spot right.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. To me, it just feels so implausible that somebody could overtake Cam Williams.
I know, but
it's just right. I mean, but hey, I mean, if there was one guy who could, it would be him. Right, he has the profile of a dude who could come in and play. But gosh, how disappointing would that be for Cam Williams to really bide your time? And you know what I mean?
100%. And I'm not saying that for the people out there listening. I'm not saying Cam's not good. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying they need to do their due diligence as a team builder, as a roster to make sure that they have the best 5 out there any given week with the most flexibility.
I also think that and as well as anybody, People make a whole lot of about the moving from right tackle to left tackle. For some people, it's a big deal, right? It's a big deal. They say it's like all of a sudden having to like do an everyday thing, like wiping with the other hand or something like that. Like stuff like this. They just and some people are like, well, it isn't a big deal. I just wipe with the other hand. And some people are like, man, I really can't get used to this. Like I've been doing this way my whole life, all that stuff. Right. So, I think that there's at least some credence to the idea of, maybe, I mean, all he played was right tackle in high school. I wonder if you're going to want to have him play left. Eventually you're going to have him practice at left too.
I haven't watched Fasusi. Is Fasusi left?
Yes. I think I've seen Fasusi at both left. Man, he does play left. I don't know whether there's any right that's in there. We can pull up his huddle and just look.
I'm just saying, like, what if there's I'm not saying that that's the thought is that, they're just going to pencil in Baker as a right forever, but maybe there's a thought that, they want to stay, like I said, flexible for 2024. And then, what if they do land, a big 5-star for left tackle and he comes in, and then, I mean, that's a young offensive line, but I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not thinking about I would say they're not thinking today about 2025 on this offensive line. This offensive line is returning as a top 5 unit in pass protection. and they want to make sure this is the number one pass protecting offense of
Cody,
Washington.
I can't believe how right I always am. He's mainly left, but there are some snaps on his on his huddle at right. I've watched probably 6 snaps so far, and I've seen 1 at right tackle. So I don't know. I haven't gone through and watched every single Louisville game, but
Come on,
based
man,
on the
get on your
highlights,
stuff.
based on the highlight tape, he does play left. And look, man, this is all. Can we just so if Brandon Baker is at third team right tackle right now, and we've discussed the nuances of what that means and why that could be right. Can we just talk about how the depth chart's going to look on the first day? Like, what does that mean? Like who's I'm just gonna pull up my chart and I'm like, because obviously the chart that I have is not right, like that was wrong, that I had Baker just coming in and being bequeathed the number 2 left tackle spot as just the saying, hey, we're here to groom you behind Kelvin Banks. We want you to be the next Kelvin Banks. That was the way that I thought about it. That's not the way that they're going to do it.
Makes
Okay?
sense. It makes logical sense. It's not like I don't think it's completely out of pocket at all.
So is it as easy as saying Kelvin Banks and then behind him some mix of the 2 guys that got to play left tackle last year, Trevor Guzman and Jaden Chapman?
But so what about Kirkland and Kojo? Like, are they going to just put Baker over at right and have 4 tackles? Or would they potentially bring one of those guys over to left?
Well, you're going to have 4 tackles at one of the spots.
Yeah.
You're going to have 4 tackles at one of the spots. It looks like Trevor Sandoval. Who was that saying that? Is Trevor Sandoval Sandman 23? Is that what somebody was saying yesterday? I guess he has that could be totally wrong, man. I'm just only keeping the chat out of the side of my eye. He has a question. We'll get to that here in a second. Trevor Sandoval. Ben G says Gooseby is the LT2, and he's talking about how Chapman could move inside. It would make sense for Chapman to move inside because I feel like at the left, both of those, the left guard and the right guard, as far as the third options up, we're talking about. Okay, so Ben G says yes, Trevor is Sandman. So good to see you, Sandman. Why you change your name, brother?
Wait, did Sandman get blocked yesterday? Is that what the story was?
I saw something about Sandman in the chat, and they were talking about a Trevor is Sandman, and Sandman is, Finkel is Einhorn, and all the rest. Because the left guard and the right guard. So here's how I think it's probably going to be with this, and you can tell me what you think, Cody. This if they're right about Chapman maybe moving inside, then we would have 3 tackles. I would think that the tackles on the left side would be Kelvin Banks, Gooseby. No, they can't. But maybe Kirkland. Maybe Kirkland, because Kirkland played some left in the spring game last year. So could that? It's just, man, when I was putting the right tackles together, I said, well, this is easy. Just put Cam Williams over there, put Kirkland over there, put Kojo over there, because all those guys are 350 plus, right? They're all the big monsters. But maybe if they do move Chapman inside, and the reason why they might move Chapman inside is because, and that's not something that I've even heard about, right? Like, I don't know if that's true. That's just what somebody's saying in chat. I'm just kind of humoring that idea. But the third guard at both of these spots, like we're talking to left guard, I have it Hayden Connor, Nato Umuzolo, and behind him, Max Merrill, who really is just a bit of a, no offense to the guy, but he's a bit of a kind of roster fodder right now. And then at right guard, you have DJ Campbell, you have Cole Hudson, and then you have Connor Stroh, the 2023 guy, giant dude, right? Big redheaded guy that you see in all the photos where it's like a giant human, but he's like, his feet aren't ready. Like he's not even ready to play guard yet, So maybe Chapman moves better than Stroh. He's probably better than Merrill. So maybe you could have him as like the third guard. The only thing I see with that, why it doesn't make as much sense, is that, if anything were to happen to Hayden Connor, or if they were to happen to DJ Campbell, I think that no matter what, I think even though I have Neto backing up Hayden Connor, I think that Cole Hudson would take over that job before NATO did, just because he's
Yeah.
a dude who felt like he was their swing guard. They were
Yeah.
getting him in, mixing him in with DJ Campbell even last year. He started over DJ Campbell. He started the whole year as a true freshman until he got hurt. So I don't know, man. I like
It's a good place to be.
yeah. I think left tackle. I don't think Chapman's moving inside. If he does, we'll report it. I'll have that information right here for you on the show. But that'll be Kelvin Banks. I think now Trevor Gooseby, Jaden Chapman. I think left guards Hayden Connor, Nato Umuzulo, Max Merrill. I think that now center is Jake Majors and Cole Hudson. You know, I think Cole Hudson's the backup at all three inside spots, right? And then behind him will be Connor Robertson. Maybe Daniel Cruz starts to push. Daniel Cruz could maybe push Connor Robertson early on. They really like him. Anything you've heard that you think's weird?
No, I think the offensive line is about fine. I think that the minutia of the depth will, rise as the next couple of weeks go by of practice, and we'll see where these guys. They're going to start trying guys.
We have Kirk Bowles in the chat. Kirk, my guy, dude. Kirk Bowles has been covering the Longhorns for what did he tell me on the Football with Friends show he was on? I'm not sure if you were watching that one, Cody, but
way back.
I think he says he's been covering the team for 50 years now.
That's
dating back to his time at like the Daily Texan.
That's a long time.
53 years.
That's a long time.
It can't really be Kirk Bowles, man. He wouldn't want to jump in this chat, dude. Okay.
Maniacal. No, but I think the offensive line's in a good spot.
Yeah.
I think that, obviously you're returning 4 or 5, and Cam is penciled in as the 5, and Cole Hudson, you brought up that. And really, I think what we're just looking at is where's Baker really going to end up after camp gets over with, and then where do the rest of these guys kind of just fit? Are they going to try him out in different spots and things of that nature? But my real questions really come up at receiver and tight end for you. But I think the offensive line overall is in a good place.
Yeah, just to finish out the projection at right guard, DJ Campbell again, Cole Hudson, and Connor Stroh. Connor Stroh played at right guard, and even though he didn't play this season, he did play at right guard in the spring game last year with the threes. And then at right tackle, I had that Cam Williams, Peyton Kirkland, Andre Kojo. I guess now it's just if Brandon Baker's the RT3, who's he in front of out of that group? Who's he behind? I don't know. We're gonna find out. Yeah. We're gonna find out in 11 days. 11 days. But Ben G saying, yeah, OL's in the best place it's been in almost 20 years. It's certainly in the best place it's been since I have been doing this professionally. I've been doing it since 2013, grading every single one of these guys, right? And it's just I can't tell you what a night and day kind of difference that we're talking about here. It really is a monumental, just very, 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 very different than anything that we've seen before. It used to be, Cody, that we would be so worried about the offensive line that we would every year we would come in and say do we even know that Texas can field? There were some springs that we would come in and Texas literally couldn't field an offensive line that didn't have at least one walk-on it. Just for injury reasons, stuff like that. It's a wild deal. It's just such a difference. It's almost like when I think about Texas beef traders, just the difference, the difference in the taste of the meat, the difference when you know that meat's coming from America. It's coming right from Mason, Texas, ranch direct, right from dude. Is today Friday? Today's Friday. It's a big day. The Texas beef traders just got in their new shipment from Mason, Texas today. So I'm going this afternoon. I'm going to see Darren. I'm going to see Shay, and I'm going to get some of that delicious, fresh new meat straight from Mason, Texas, Black Angus. No mRNA vaccines, no vaccines. Period. No inoculations. None of this cockamamie GMO nonsense. Just grass-fed Black Angus beef right from the heart of the Hill Country, directly Hill Country to Taste Buds. It's the Hill Country to Taste Buds pipeline. Texas Beef Traders, and you get it for 10% off. I need to also just tell them you heard about it here with Alex on Orange Bloods, and they will give you that 10% off. And guess what? If you can't get to Lakeway, it's super easy in Lakeway, right there off 620 in the heart of Lakeway. Loman's Crossing. It's super close into me. It's like a 20-minute drive into town to go to Lakeway to go do this. Worth every minute of it. It's actually very, very affordable at Texas Beef Traders. And Shay at Texas Beef Traders, guess what he has coming up? A St. Patty's Day menu. You can order, pick it up right there at the store. They're taking their briskets and he's making pastrami out of it, right? He's making pastrami sandwiches. He's got bangers and mash. He's got big family-sized orders. So for the family-sized orders, you can get the bangers and mash. It's $25 for 8 links with onion gravy and a family-sized tray of whipped Guinness mashed potatoes. There's smoked cabbage for $15, a family-sized tray, fire-roasted rainbow carrots, Guinness mac and cheese. All this stuff is cheap. What are you doing not getting into Texas Beef Traders? They got everything going on. Go see Darren, go see Shay, and look, if you can't drive over there, just tell them you can't make it in, buy some stuff. They'll just bring it to you. Dude, Shay drove up to Temple, Texas to make a delivery for an Orange Bloods listener last week.
Hey. Now we're talking. I mean, we're going to find out in 7 days if we're moving to Temple, if we're moving to Tampa, if we're moving to Charleston. And if I'm moving to Temple, I'm going to make my little skinny drive down to Lakeland. I'm going to get me some beef, baby.
Yeah. All right. So that's the big difference there. It's a big difference in offensive line. It's a big difference in the taste of your beef, Texas Beef Traders. I think there was who was it that had a question? Was it Ben G?
There's too many comments in this chat. I don't know.
Okay. Let's see. South End Zone Queens Lake. Is that the real Kirk Bowles? I don't think Kirk Bowles is awake yet. South End Zone Queen. It could be. Kirk Bowles. Alex. Kirkland is a guard. Okay. All right. That's okay. Sandman says, question, other than A&M, OU, Michigan, and UGA, what game on Texas schedule concerns you the most and why? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I would let's see what's he got. He's got OU, A&M, Michigan, the easy 4. Is there anybody else on the schedule that gives you worry? Not really offhand. Arkansas and Florida are interesting, but I'm not really worried about them. Arkansas, no KJ Jefferson transferred out, right?
Yeah.
KJ Jefferson transferred out, so that makes me
I think KJ Jefferson went to UCF.
You're right. There you go. He went to UCF with Malzahn. You're right. Yeah. So Florida, really, I saw some stuff come out about DJ Lagway yesterday, and he looked pretty all right.
Is he the one from Boise or something, or Fresno or something?
He's the freshman. DJ Lagway.
Okay.
Is he looks pretty dang good. You know, not like NFL ready or anything, but like as far as a college quarterback, like he's got some freaking velocity behind that football. Now I'm not saying Florida's going to be any good, and it's going to be at home, so I'm not really worried about it. But
okay, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking you were still talking about Arkansas because you mentioned KJ Jefferson. So Lagway's a freshman for Florida.
Correct.
Okay. But doesn't Arkansas have some kind of running quarterback they got from Boise or Fresno or something like this? Does any of that ring a bell, or am I getting it mixed up? Let me see.
I'm going to be honest with you. I know they got Petrino in there. Let me look here quick. They got Talon Green. That's who they got. They got Talon Green.
Yeah. So let me just what's his, how do you spell Talon?
Tay, like Taylor, but Lynn.
So
I'm not even sure where he came from, to be honest.
Boise transfer, Talon Green, big dude, 6'6", 220 pounds. Let's see. I'd written him up. He had he only had a 57.1% completion rate in 2023. Pretty miserable. 11 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But over the last 2 seasons at Boise, he's rushed for 1,024 yards and 19 touchdowns. So, and if you look, and I looked up his, he's also a hard guy to sack. It looks like only 8.8% of pressures from 2023 resulted in sacks. So that kind of gives you a little bit. You know, he's a big, tough dude to bring down, kind of like a KJ Jefferson was whenever Texas fell prey to Arkansas. I mean, Fayette Nam at night, man, that's worrisome to me. No matter who it is, those people would just have such a visceral, vile hate for Texas.
It's SEC football too. It's a you know, you have Florida at home, Kentucky at home, and it's right between there. You're traveling to Arkansas, and if it's a night game, like you said, like that's just, you know, it's SEC football. It's just part of
it. Be a night game. They always give us the piggy night games. It is. Yeah. Do you think Texas A&M is going to be at night?
That's a
That's got to be
conversation. That's a conversation that's come up a lot, isn't it? Aren't they trying to make that? They're trying to move that from. They're trying to move it to Thanksgiving.
Does anybody in chat know whether that's a T+1 or what the like? I've heard about that stuff.
I think they've been trying to work on that, but there's no.
Kirk says Kirk Bowles says that he's been awake since 4:30 a.m.
Oh, he's getting the sources, dog. He's got to get the work in.
Journal Kirk, man, chasing down those sources. Yes, but no, for me, the answer is Texas A&M, and I think you'll see this year, Cody. What a pain it is to face Texas A&M. What a weird bunch of folks they are. And it's a weird place to play, man. If like these Texas guys don't have any idea what it's like to go into that thing, see all these fake Army soldiers doing all these weird claps and these weird yells. Here's the thing, Cody. They're not real. They're not really in the Army.
Dude, I feel some type of way about this because part of me really wants to move to Texas, to come to Texas, and we'll know in a week. Part of me really wants to come down there and live there, but the other part of me feels weird because my wife would technically be a Texas A&M Aggie in Temple.
Why?
Oh, because the Baylor Scott White is Texas A&M.
It's also Baylor, right? Isn't it? It's got the name Baylor in it.
I don't know. That's just the people's names on the building, but it's an A&M school. So part of me is like, I don't really want to be a part of that. But then part of me is like, I want to be in Texas. So we'll see. I do have a couple more questions though about tight end and receiver before we move on past the depth chart.
Yep.
Nyblack. Nyblack, if he's not getting run in practice in the coming weeks, if he's still banged up, whatever the problem may be at that time, do you think we're going to see a little more 3 and 4 receiver sets and less tight end usage? Because we know with this offensive line's in a good place. We know it's a top 5 blocking unit. Do you think that they're like, you know what, man, we'll just keep Helm off the field a little bit more. We don't need to use Juan Davis. We'll just we'll try out these, 4 wide receiver sets, 3 wide receiver sets more often. Do you think that's an option, or do you think we're still going to see Helm enough?
Yeah, Sark hasn't run a 4 wide receiver set at Texas, so I mean, I'm not sure we're going to see it. Yeah,
Sark hasn't had this kind of depth.
No, I get it. No, but I'm laying out the predicate. Is that the right word? The predicate. I'm not sure that's right. I'm just
premise.
Yeah, is that the right word? South Enzo Queen is asking if your wife's trying to match for residency. Is that what this process is called for your doctor wife? Yeah, yes. She's trying to get her. She's doing this thing where she's got to put in her preferences, and they put in their preferences, and then they figure out who. They get a big ceremony to figure out who chose who, and Cody finds out where he gets to go move for the next 6 years. It's just by opening up a piece of paper.
Literally, dude, open up a piece of paper.
When is that, Cody?
7 days from right now, we're going to be in an auditorium doing that.
Oh man, well, we'll see what happens. Cody could be killing it up in Temple, Texas. Who knows? All right. The note from Anwar, the note from Anwar in the war room. Listen to this. Listen to this exclusive content. Like I said, Anwar's not on the show. It's practically like he's on the show. Just picture being him saying this. He said, with Amari Nyblack nursing an injured ankle, Gunnar Helm is currently at the number 1 spot. However, file this nugget away. I was told freshman tight end Jordan Washington flashed this week and had several spectacular catches. Clearly, Washington has not put on the pads at Texas. Nevertheless, he's off to a good start. So, Jordan Washington. So, interesting thing to watch there. I do, whenever I made the depth chart, what I made it Gunnar Helm, Amari Nyblack, with the thing next to Amari Nyblack saying, if there's an asterisk saying, he's been hurt during winter conditioning. So if he's not available for spring, just make sure to notate that. I'm not saying that I don't know what's going to happen with his availability for spring football. I don't know how bad he's hurt or whatever. But beneath him, I just said underneath him, that's anybody's guess, dude. I've said in my write-up that I'm going to kind of give the nod to Juan Davis, because Juan Davis is a senior. He's been here a lot. He's been with Coach Banks a lot. He has had some moments in practices and particularly in fall camps, where he's actually looked kind of good, right? whenever I saw him as a freshman, or I'm sorry, as a recruit, I remember thinking, man, that's a really big wide receiver. Like I think he was one of these kind of wide receiver recruits. So really athletic in that way. But yeah, man, I mean, last year, what did he play? 40 snaps. Anwar was asking about Juan Davis yesterday. I think he said he played 43 snaps on the whole season. He's been hurt. He doesn't play. He hasn't been very good. But when you juxtapose that with Spencer Shannon and Will Randall, who have not played a lick of anything, and Will Randall missed last spring because he had a knee injury from his senior year in high school, you're like, well, I mean, who's going to be the number 2 tight end? And well, I mean, if Jordan Washington comes in, he's looking like, I'll bet you he gets some chances. If Niblack's hurt, we're going to see some Jordan Washington.
I would say slightly. I mean, when you just look up, you just brought it up, the tight end usage chart. Like, if you're looking at this, the amount of snaps that Gunnar Helm had out there, 452. Jatavian had 583. That's literally only 130 more. It's 10%. That's a lot of snaps that need to be replaced. And you're talking about 2 athletic guys, Juan Davis and Jordan Washington, who are the same size, 6'4", 220, 225 pounds. And that's a lot of snaps that need to go somewhere. Now we know Niblack is there, but we also know we can't hit 6 for 6 in the transfer portal and these receivers and stuff. And we got that freshman. I think this is a very interesting position to watch this month. Just saying, if Niblack does,
we're going to be forced to put these guys on audition.
Yeah, I don't think he's like behind the 8 ball or anything per se. But if he were to potentially fall a little bit behind just by losing out on reps, because that's important. You lose out on reps. That's how you lose your job. And if a guy like Washington does come in on day 1 and all of a sudden he's just melting faces. How does he not?
We've seen weird things.
Boom, exactly.
He's a good prospect. We've seen weird things, and if somebody come in and look really awesome, I don't think he would. I don't think he'd end up taking Niblack's job.
No, but I'm just saying, like, but it'd be the difference of saying, like, I know the conversation has been out about, Niblack could potentially be a 1-for-1 replacement of Jatavian. Things like that have been said, and if you just think about that, that's 580 snaps. All right, we're just going to give Niblack 580 snaps. What if he misses a little bit of time? Washington shows he can do this. Juan Davis shows he can do that. All of a sudden, Niblack's number isn't 583. It's 400 or 350. And then you're seeing Washington get 150. And Juan Davis has 100. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of a sudden,
Agbo has 85 as jumbo tight end. And
bingo. I get it. Bingo. I think we just need to open up our minds to potentially something like that happening, and Niblack not just, melting faces, but more opportunities going all the way around. That's kind of what I took from that note.
We had the modcast yesterday, and we talked about how, which guys were most likely to play as freshmen. We didn't even broach the subject of Jordan Washington, dude. But if big qualifier, if we do consider the fact that Niblack might not play this spring, he has one of the most wide open, he's got a wide open runway, dog. It's like, it's a very, 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 very clear pathway to at least being able to say, like, look, at least give me a shot to show you what I can do. And then at that point, it'll be up to him. It'll be up to him at that point to take it, to take advantage there. I think it's important that people take advantage of, talking to Eric Torres, El Presidente. Now, I don't know quite as much about him as Anwar would be able to tell you. Anwar knows him personally. I know El Presidente from the chat. He seems like a great guy, but he's buying and selling made easy. Eric sells homes DFW. What you can do is you can scan that code right there. As you guys know the drill. Anwar talks about him all the time. He's been a sponsor here on the show with Anwar since the very beginning of the show. Again, you can scan the code. Real estate agent serving all of DFW. Eric sells homes. DFW, buying and selling made easy. Eric Torres. Thank you very much, sir. And thanks to all you guys in the chat, man. Everybody in the chat, especially the Specs chat line. Thanks to you guys for being in there with us and for helping us with the content here on the show and making sure that you're engaged with us and stuff like that. We certainly appreciate it. Quickly, a word from our friends over at Specs.
You're needing Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Oh, yes. All right. All right. So, Cody, you said you have one more thing that you wanted to talk about before we get out of here. What'd you say? Was it wide receiver?
Yeah, I mean, wide receiver is kind of a smaller question. You could tease defense if you want, but my wide receiver question was more so just surrounded around Bond. It feels like, and you brought it up yesterday on the podcast. I listened to you bring up Bond in the slot. But right now we're going through a little bit of a conversation in the NFL draft side with Malik Neighbors, and they're saying, well, he's not flexible. He can't, he can't play on the outside and into, but he played 55%, which is exactly what Bond did last year. Bond played 58% in the slot, and he played on the outside. And my question
we're
is,
do this about Neighbors, the same junk they try to do about Justin Jefferson.
but listen, I know, but that's what I'm saying. That's what people are saying.
Dude, he's at the same school. He's wearing the same damn helmet. You're going to make the same. You're going to do the same stupid thing again. Are you kidding me?
People have been saying that for like a month. But what I'm saying is, I'm trying to.
Hold on. All right, sorry. First, hold on. We need to clear this up. What are they saying about Malik Neighbors?
They're saying he can't play on the outside.
Have they watched his tape? All of his biggest highlights are down the right side of the field.
That's your Draft Network friends. But anyway, I agree with you 100%. You don't got to convince me.
Are you telling me that Lance Zierlein and Daniel Jeremiah are saying he can't play outside?
No, they didn't say that.
Yeah, I thought you said your Draft Network. Oh, you mean
yes,
not NFL Network.
Yes.
Oh, TDN.
Yes.
Oh, that's gone completely off the rails since they lost Krabs and Marino and Trevor and Ben Solak. That's not the same TDN that it's always been.
Yep. So, but my question brought it back to Bond in being that the snap shares were similar as far as slot the outside, and you guys have all brought up Catch, yourself have brought up, you're just penciling in Bond in the slot. But something we talked about at the noon hour yesterday with Chad and Wes was the positional flexibility that all these receivers have, and all they feel like they all have, like Moore, Cook, Bolden, Golden. They all feel like they have a little flexibility here. And I just want to see
one that has the least flexibility, it feels like, is Bolden. He played all his snaps outside.
Well, yeah, okay, that's a good point. But more so what I was trying to tie was Bond and Moore, is that I think we're going to see a little more than we're expecting, and I think that's going to come at the expense of Bond going on the outside. I think we're going to see some Bond, Cook, and Moore lineups. Like I'm really buying the DeAndre Moore stuff, and there's not really a lot to buy, but I'm buying it, and I think we're going to see him play in the slot, play in the Whittington role, and I think Bond and Cook on the outsides is going to be something dynamic, and I just wanted to run that by you and just get the thoughts, because it feels like everyone's just writing Bond in pen in the slot when I think you would know, like we just talked about with Neighbors and Jefferson, like the flexibility of being able to go in and out, doesn't matter. Every snap he could be in, he could be out. Like, I don't think Sark's going to just pencil him in for 75% in the slot.
I mean, you bring up a good point, especially when juxtaposing me versus the idiots at the Draft Network. But because I don't want to be like them. I strive not to be like the idiots in my industry. But I mean, I guess it's a good point. I mean, they're saying, like, I guess I can't just say it's like, well, with Neighbors, but that's the thing about Neighbors. These guys are morons. The thing about Neighbors is some of his best plays are on the outside. I'm not sure that we really saw that with Bond, but I guess it's something I can at least go back and look at and investigate. One thing that we know, though, is that they're going to confuse the dickens out of us at practice. They're going to like everything that we think we're just going to be like, oh, it's like, well, hold on, wait. They're going to do some stuff like they're going to put they'll be like Jonte Cook's in the slot. He didn't even play in the slot all year last year. He didn't get a rep in the slot. Now it's Jonte Cook in the slot and Isaiah Bond out wide and Matthew Golden on the other side or something like this, or DeAndre Moore's outside. Like, they're going to do this kinds of stuff, right? Because I do feel like this spring it's going to be a bit of a, not only is it going to be a proving ground for these guys, right, to kind of show what they got, show how they fit in, show within the parameters of this offense, sort of where it is that they stand out and what it is that they bring with their physical and mental attributes, right? That's kind of what it is, right? It, like, spring football is sort of that kind of proving ground for the new guys. It's also going to be the time where the staff says, like, people have asked Sark, what are you going to do with all these edge rushers? What are you going to do with all these wide receivers? And he's like, man, He's like, we don't really have that written in pen right now. You know, like we're gonna have to figure it out. We got to get them on a football. These guys haven't played football. I mean, they're here working out, but they haven't played football. Like we got to see it. So I feel like we're gonna go there, and the first day of practice, there's gonna be something cocky maybe that happens. We're gonna come back and we're gonna come do the show and overreact to it and say like, oh my God, I can't believe that Jonte's playing in the slot, or oh my gosh, I can't believe that they play every single snap with a tight end split out wide or something. Like it looks like a whole new look, and just like, well, that was just something that they were doing today. And then tomorrow will be something else new. And then tomorrow, or, you know, this is the same thing. Like, oh my gosh, today we didn't even see Ethan Burke line up at edge at all. All it was Colin Simmons on one side and Trey Moore on the other. And you're like, gosh, Ethan Burke's out of a job. And the next day, Ethan Burke's taking all the snaps. And then you come to realize it's like, well, yesterday you didn't know because you weren't in the pre-practice meeting, but they were basically yesterday just going over 3rd and 12 scenarios. You know, and like that's what they wanted to practice that day. And maybe in those kinds of spots, they're going to bring in the speed package and a third linebacker, and they're going to have the 2 edge guys coming. You know, so it's just really hard without knowing the context of what they're trying to accomplish in practice to know these things. But I guess what I'm saying is the best information that we are going to get is going to be, you know, seeing it at practice. But what I'm worried about is even once we see it at practice, we're still not going to know what the hell's going on because they're just too many of these dudes. And as with the offensive line stuff that we talked about earlier, as with the edge rush stuff that we talked about earlier, all very good problems to have. Cody, you got anything else before we get out of here?
I'm just looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing, the cream rise to the top at all these positions over the course of the next month. It's going to be exciting, and it's going to be a lot of conversations to be had about it.
400 people in the chat, man. Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. If you could, please like the show, subscribe to the channel. Next week's going to be a little bit weird. I'm going to be hosting the show with Catch on Monday. We'll have Jason on Tuesday. And then maybe Cody, I could get you on Wednesday or Tuesday. One of those days next week. I think you might be traveling.
I might be traveling, but we might be able to figure it out.
We'll figure it out. This is something that I should probably ask you offline anyway, instead of in front of 400 people in the chat. But we'll get it figured out. I'll be going hunting on Thursday and Friday, going after one of them big Hill Country Access bucks. We'll be back by then, and then to start spring football the week afterwards, we'll be back to our regular schedule. But yeah, man, thanks to the 400 of you guys here in the chat today. Again, please like the show, subscribe to the channel. Have a great weekend, man. Go do something big this weekend, man. Have some fun. Spend some time with the fans. Spend some time with your friends. Do something cool in the yard, man. Make it a big one. Make it a good